Summer camp started very much the same way every day. We would gather on a big rock, and there would be the scent of pine in the air and lots of chitter chatter, and we would sing some songs to open. And then the camp director would come make a couple of announcements, and then maybe we'd sing a few more songs. And then at the close, one of the counselors in training would say, "And what does the Lord require of thee?" And we would answer back, "To do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God." Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It wasn't an explicitly Christian camp, and anyways, Micah is from the Torah, but as a UU kid, I wasn't particularly bothered either way. I had never said Lord before, except maybe in Christmas carols, but I found myself drawn to these words. I still say them to myself sometimes. The sentiments rang true for me as a Unitarian Universalist: to act justly, to love mercy, and to be humble. As open to interpretation as some of these concepts might be, it felt like a pretty good roadmap to living a principled life, one that did as little harm as good and maximized kindness and love. But more so than the concepts themselves, I think what really landed with me was the existence of a roadmap. The Lord requires three things. Do these three things and you're good. That's good with a capital G. This succinct little call and response had all I needed to live right. And I was invested in living right. From the youngest age, I was preoccupied with getting it right, being right, fairness. And here it was this whole time in Micah chapter 6, verse 8, I had three things to do and it would be done. The roadmap is one thing we don't really have in Unitarian Universalism. Some might call the roadmap dogma. But I found comfort as a young person in its prescription. But most of us found Unitarian Universalism because prescriptions and commandments and creeds chafed. We felt bound by them, hemmed in by them, unsatisfied that our spiritual lives could be so concrete, fixed. Many of us arrived here to this place and to this faith exactly for the space and the freedom to make our own roadmaps. We arrived here without knowing exactly what it is that we believed, only knowing what it is we didn't. We arrived here without knowing what exactly it was that we wanted, only knowing what we didn't. And we arrived here without knowing exactly what it is to live a principled life, only that we wanted to. The problem with this approach, and where perhaps this faith and this church have fallen short, is that it can leave so much expansiveness, so much room for personal interpretation that we end up wandering in the wilderness for far longer than anyone intended. We never really find a compass or build our own roadmap. We never really discover what it is that we believe in, what it is that we want, how it is to live a principled life. We wander for so long, and with so much desert in front of us, we become accustomed to never arriving at the destination. And we settle for something easier than building from scratch, that roadmap to a principled life, one that minimizes harm and maximizes kindness. What I see often is that we settle for something easier. And if I pass on any wisdom to you in my years as your minister, please let it be this. Unitarian Universalism is not supposed to be easy. And as a kid, I myself was seduced by something easier, the three requirements of the Lord as told by Micah 6:8. And while so many of us arrived here wanting freedom from the constraints of dogma, perhaps a little bit is not so bad when it means we don't have to figure it out every day, what it means to be good with a capital G. It's hard to build your own compass and chart your own course. And so it is that on Sundays we gather. On Sundays we come together, and you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to chart the course without a friend. You can get counsel and wisdom on what goes into making a map and building a compass. On Sundays, we gather to remind ourselves of our commitment to leave the wandering in the wilderness, to abandon the easier option and recommit to the hard stuff. On Sundays, in this sanctuary of time and space, we shore ourselves up. But what happens when we leave this place, when we leave this sanctuary of time and space, when Sunday slides into Monday and we are forced again to find our way as Unitarian Universalists without the cover of church? How many of you still lead with the values of Unitarian Universalism the other 6 days of the week? How many of you feel called to other commitments until we come back around to Sunday and we recommit, only to start the cycle all over again? James Luther Adams, arguably the most important Unitarian theologian of the 20th century, he says, "We must not believe every pious man's religion to be what he says it is. He may go to church regularly. He may profess some denominational affiliation. He may repeat his creed regularly, but he may actually give his deepest loyalty to something quite different from these things. Find out what that is, and you have found his religion." It is this sentiment exactly that drove so many of us from the faiths we were born into, the idea that there was an intolerably large gap between the preaching and the practice in the religions of your birth. It's a story I hear over and over during the path to membership. But I want to put to you today the possibility that Adams was talking as much about us as he was about other faiths. That, see, sometimes we give ourselves a pass because the roadmap isn't there to tell us exactly when we've strayed, and we find ourselves deeply loyal to things beside the principles and the values of this faith. Out of curiosity, just how many of us consider ourselves Unitarian Universalists before almost anything else? Is it up there with our age, our race, our gender? Does it rank near mother, uncle, godparent? Or is it an afterthought? Is it a thing we remember about ourselves on Sunday and then forget the rest of the week? What exactly does it mean to be a UU 7 days a week? You may be wondering, what does that look like? For many, there is an unspoken pressure that to be UU means a social activist, that to be a Unitarian Universalist means you were out in the streets, chanting, marching. And to be sure, that is one mode of Unitarian Universalism that very clearly engages with our theological desire to make heaven here and now on this planet in this lifetime. But I'm also interested in all the ways, quiet and loud, that we can live into our principles, live into the values of this faith: kindness, accountability, repair, radical acceptance, and a vibrant moral imagination. How do we bring these things to bear in our lives outside the sanctuary, outside worship? How do you begin to fashion yourself a lens through which the world is filtered as a Unitarian Universalist? This is how we create a roadmap. This is how we instill just a touch of rigor to this faith when we do it day in and day out. I'm thinking about the ways we bring Unitarian Universalism into the workplace. How do we think about the HR policies we oversee? How do we think about the way we hire and seek out candidates? How is it that we welcome new people to the team, that we greet our customers, that we insist on dignity in the office? I'm thinking about how we bring Unitarian Universalism into the classroom. How do we think about history and whose stories get told? How do we hold administrations accountable for endowments and who gets what scholarships? How do we think about punishment and classroom culture? I'm thinking about how we bring Unitarian Universalism into our art. How do we market ourselves? Who do we cite as our influences? What stories or materials do we use? What kind of training do we privilege or uphold as professional? Unitarian Universalism is here for you in all those arenas. In every facet of your life, your faith, this faith, can help provide the answers. This is activism too, the ways in which we exert our power in small but mighty ways. In the small contained circles of our lives, we can be champions of justice at the tiniest of scales. We must find within ourselves and this community the determination to build that roadmap that takes out of the wandering desert of anything goes. The roadmap that leads us away from a Unitarian Universalism that can be picked up and put down, instead of like a second skin we never shed. The quotation that describes this service, from James Luther Adams, again, cited also by Lily earlier, the question concerning faith is not, shall I be a person of faith? The proper question is rather, which faith is mine? Or better, which faith should be mine? For whether a person craves prestige, wealth, security, or amusement, whether a person lives for country, for science, for God, or for plunder, that person is demonstrating a faith. So here we gather each Sunday. We are people of faith. That question has already been decided. But when you go to demonstrate that faith, when you are at the crosswalk or the checkout, when you are at the playground and the water cooler, do you lead with Unitarian Universalism or do you demonstrate faith in something else? It is time now, sang out the Thrive East Bay chorus and our musical interlude. It is time now to sow the seeds and reap the change and learn to live in love. It is time now to build the roadmap out of the desert towards a daily affirmation of our faith, one that does justice in all the small circles of our lives, not just on Sunday, but on all the days we get to awake and affect the world. Go with peace today, go with power. Head to the world to demonstrate a faith, this faith, our faith. Blessed be, and amen.
Hi, I'm Reverend Hannah Capaldi.
And I'm Reverend Abby Tennis. We are the ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where our mission is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world.
We're so grateful that you watched, and we hope that the sermon connected with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for a live worship service every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can always find the link to that service on our website at www.philauu.org. In these services, you'll hear words like you've just heard, and you also get a chance to greet one another, pray together, sing together, and we even hold a virtual coffee hour after services to get a chance to greet some new and old friends.
If you want to support the mission of this community and you feel moved to give, you can do so by going to the website that Reverend Abby just mentioned. You can find that link below, or you can text 215-709-5095 and follow the prompts to give.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, we encourage you to share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.